Recording in progress.
I'll make the motion to accept the recommendation of the superintendent to terminate the employee effective today based on unprofessional conduct.
Second. So we have a motion by Beth and a second by Nelson. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We direct the attorney to write the decision
And Kristen abstained.
and Kristen abstained. So all in favor. Okay. Any,
I'll make a second motion to uphold the finding of sexual harassment of employees of policy 4001.
motion on the table by Beth. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor? And one abstention by Kristen. Okay, and can you direct the attorney to also write this decision? Okay,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you. Great, we're good with the motions. All right, motion by Beth, second by Glenn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Okay. Thank you to anybody who's online that has been patiently waiting. Call the Southwest Vermont Supervisory Union Board of Directors meeting to order at 7:01. I don't believe we have any changes to the agenda, correct? Everything that's on the agenda remains
Yes.
on the agenda? Okay. Then our first item is public comments. We have anybody online who's here to give comment? Seeing none. We have a consent agenda. There were minutes posted, warrants, retirements, resignations, and nominations. As you will note, the minutes are in a new format. Tim has said if there's any feedback on the format or content, or if anybody reviews them and proofs them and sees that they're not picking things up correctly we're trying to work it out, but just to please let us all know.
Could you explain that to the public that may be watching? Because we know it's in other boards, but what the.
Sure. So we're using so we will still be recording the meetings and providing them through YouTube, thanks to our partners at Catamount. But we are using an AI tool to create a transcript, and it meets the expectations as far as any motions or any motions and decisions made by the board. And but we also have to teach it. So I appreciate board members identifying themselves as they make motions or seconds, or they're participating in a conversation. So far, we've got some good feedback, but if folks have comments, you feel free to share those with me. We'll keep tinkering with the machine.
Can we add them to the agenda as part of the agenda instead of just a date?
You mean like link it?
Meaning if I have the consent agenda, I want to be able to. Yeah,
Oh, is it not linked in that? On the-
No, it's a separate document.
right.
So, hey,
Yeah.
we have to identify ourselves now
You're gonna make a motion
for AI.
as we make motions and seconds and
Just a moment.
vote. So we've sort of had our partial discussion about the consent agenda, but we look for a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved. Because you have to identify.
Yes.
Oh, Glenn, 2 minutes from Woodford, and I'll move that agenda item.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. There's a second. Scott McEnany with the second. Any further discussion? Not all those in favor? Aye. That's a unanimous vote on that. Next on the agenda is operations.
How's your AI is recording this?
It's being recorded. Yes,
It generates a transcript for you, Ray.
But it needs to know our names, doesn't it?
It does.
All the way around.
Only when,
only if you're
Oh,
making a
question.
motion.
My apologies.
Okay.
Yeah. Finance, no updates, policies. There are 4 policies on the agenda to warn. We have 6100 library material selection, 4261 substitute teachers, 4276 supervision of volunteers and work study students, 4100 alcohol and drug-free workplace. Looking for a motion to warn all 4 of those policies.
Ray Molyneux, North Bennington Graded School District. I'll make a motion for policy 6100, library material selection. Policy 4261, substitute teachers. Policy 4276, supervision of volunteers and work study students. And policy 4100, alcohol and drug-free workplace. All these policies are to be warned.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Scott.
Scott McEnany, second.
Any discussion? I have one question, just if it would be helpful to have a sense of the required policies and where we are with going through those after the VSBA policy review. How far along are we in the process? Because it feels like we still keep sort of piecemealing groups of policies. And we've been,
Would you say we're early in the process? We're probably about 6, maybe 8 into the required.
Yeah.
So we're pretty early.
okay. Okay.
May I follow up on that? This is Ray Molnar with North Bennington again. So how many policies in sum total are there to do for this?
Of the required, I believe there are about 30-ish to be done. Of the state mandated.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
That is a unanimous vote on that motion. The next item on the agenda is ratification of teacher collective bargaining agreement. I'm looking for language around,
It has language for both those motions.
okay.
I make a comment that we get these or, requests much earlier, like a month in advance of the next meeting, because I really don't feel good about having a piece of paper plop in front of me and being asked to immediately stamp it as a go.
Yeah, when I had presented the board norms document that I wanted to talk about at the last meeting, that is one item that I think it would be good if we could agree on upfront so that we're not doing this,
Even a couple weeks by even,
Yeah.
something other than this.
anything that's expected. And I think we've talked to Tracy about the retreat, and that is something that we will be talking about, sort of meeting norms, board norms, how we agree to conduct ourselves so that we can be more efficient and more effective.
Appreciate being heard there.
Yep.
I will say, Glenn, for the purposes of a public meeting, we were notified of the association's approval of the contract today at lunch. And
Fair.
Fair, fair, fair.
Very fair.
Yeah.
that was with prompting. So I appreciate them making that outcome known, and I apologize for an afternoon addition as far as.
I didn't mean to cast any sense of malice in that.
No.
Okay.
Oh, but yeah, we've waited a little bit.
So in terms of best practice on this, I would assume that reading the summary of the content of the contract would be the appropriate action, correct?
We can make it part of the included in the on the website after the fact, so it's made available to the public as well. So if you can read it, I can answer any questions, or I could give a brief
Is there,
summary if that's helpful.
yeah, I mean, this is the first time I'm seeing it, so I can certainly read it, but with no context.
Why don't I just, I can preface. So your teachers, when I say your, inclusive of SVSU, MAU, and SVU ESD, keeping in mind that Arlington teachers negotiate separately. Conducted negotiations beginning in October, concluding in October of 2025, concluding in April of 2026. The tentative agreement that was reached is what's before you, the 2-year contract. Not in any order of importance, but first, certainly salary schedule is the first listed item. The agreement of 3.75% plus step in each of the 2 years. There are some alterations to sick leave, retirement payout, a sick time at retirement payout, an agreement to prepay for course reimbursement, some specific universities or institutions, whereas previously everything was done through reimbursement. So this is prepay for things that are approved, as well as some conference prepayment. Language around the process for posting of vacancies and alteration to that. 2 specific provisions to Southwest Tech that do not affect us, but we had a joint contract. an increase and slight change to how class coverage and lost prep is compensated. And finally, a change to mentor pay, which had been at the same $500 limit level for quite some time, increasing that to $1,000 for mentors. And then attached is the proposed salary schedule. It's two-sided. You'll see 26, 27 and 27, 28 on that.
And this was all agreed upon in scheduled negotiations. This did not have to go to any.
No mediation, no arbitration, we did it on our own. Sorry.
This is Ray Molyneux again. In course reimbursements, 1.2, New Hampshire.
The language in the contract will be correct, I promise.
And then this will be posted with the minutes from this meeting.
Correct. We'll make both of these documents available. And then, of course, if ratified, the full contract would be posted on the website.
Okay. So thank you for, I know you guys have been pushing, not pushing, but encouraging resolution here, so. Not having been involved in the negotiations, I know, Scott, you were.
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
myself, And Chris Murphy.
So thank you. It's a massive undertaking. To have it resolved is, I'm sure, a relief.
It is, and you know, I think the last two negotiation sessions have gone very well, and we seem to be moving towards a more collaborative way, like there's a lot of good discussion. And I feel really good about the changes that were agreed upon, because they are all centered around topics that are important to both teachers and the board and the administration, so.
Great. So we'll certainly have an opportunity for more discussion, but we sort of had discussion. What we would be looking for now is a motion to ratify the teacher collective bargaining agreement for 2026 through 2028.
I'll make that motion. Glenn.
That would be Glenn. And a second?
Jeff Leek was second.
Okay. Any further discussion on the teacher contract? If not, all those in favor? Aye. And that was a unanimous. The next item is the support staff. Collective bargaining agreement.
Format, a little less to read. Together is okay. So the very quick overview, not to interrupt your reading. These sessions were done jointly, for those who aren't aware. So the teacher and support staff bargained collectively. And so we met with them together. We would sort of bifurcate the meeting to discuss teacher items and support staff items. So we follow the same schedule from October to April. And as you'll see, similar format. The tentative agreement reached is a 2-year contract, the same period of time. The pay increases is slightly nuanced. The association presented the attached salary schedule, which was not across the board increase. So while it averages approximately 5%, that's so the board can understand what that, the overall expense. It's actually slightly varied by position. They put a special emphasis on paraprofessional and intensive needs positions as well as custodians. And so that's why it's sort of an average increase. Other small changes, similar to teachers, change in terms of sick day usage to allow smaller increments, a similar change about posting process for vacancies, a similar language change about sick leave being used for various purposes, and also sick leave payment for retirement increasing as well. So similar items across both contracts.
for the ditto on the thanks.
I didn't realize it was October three.
It was definitely, we were running out of steam, but we made it.
We were, we made it.
Is this the first time that you've done it together? Teacher and support staff
Last
conversations together?
well.
We had the last two.
Last two?
Different negotiating, some consistent people in the negotiating team, they're slightly different, yeah.
Okay,
I'd like to give a motion to approve that. And once again, this is Glenn.
thank you, Glenn. And a second?
Jeffrey, will second it.
Okay. Any further discussion?
One quick question. Are steps equal to years of service for this group? But I know the steps are different in experience, is different for teachers. Great question. So it is the only difference, the only time they would not align is an incoming employee. Is granted step at essentially a 3-to-1 ratio. 3 years of experience would grant 1 step. Once you are in the system, it's step per year. So if somebody hired at step 0 with no experience, their step and their years would be combined. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. There's no further discussion. All those in favor? Aye. It's another unanimous vote. And thank you again to everybody for all of that hard work. Superintendent's reports, Mr. Payne.
All right. Bear with me as it's a busy week in the superintendent's world. The legislative update has to be prefaced with that this is all anticipated. Because of course, the governor is the final step in signing off on the next step. There are 2 pieces of what has currently been approved by the legislature that I think is important for specifically this board to consider. The first is the CISA, the creation of a CISA. And for folks who are sitting here and also watching at home, a CISA is a cooperative educational service area. The intention is to provide services to a collection of supervisory unions. Services may include special education, business, information technology, administrative, governance, professional development, curriculum, transportation. I'm sorry.
Tech education.
Tech education, excuse me, and facilities master planning. It has a pretty aggressive timeline, including language that specifically says that a board or a supervisory union, excuse me, will have appointed a delegate to be represented on the CISA board that will be creating this.
September.
Oh, actually, it's faster than that. Within 30 days of enactment, so we're waiting for the governor to sign this, each member supervisory union must appoint a representative to serve on its CISA board of directors. Within 45 days, the superintendent from the largest supervisory union, my region is happy to point out that that's me, within each CISA will convene the initial board meeting where the board will elect a chair and all necessary officers. And that board will meet at least 4 times in the first year. I'll have more information as we go forward, but the one thing I do want to put on folks' radar on this board is that if enacted, we don't have a meeting in July. We could be with it. We could be outside those 30 days as far as appointing a representative to sit on the initial. A representative sits for a year, is my understanding, so you can revisit it each year. In talking to my partners in this area, I should say this for the public, what are you talking about as far as members? Districts as far north as Rutland, Southwest Tech would be represented, BRSU would be represented, and the SVSU would be represented. With superintendents in my conversation have been talking about, they are meeting with their SU boards this week or next week with the recommendation that the board appoint somebody to attend the initial meeting to get it up and running. And I would offer to be that representative for at least the initial year of the CISAs. We're going to actually be building an organization, another layer of administrative support over the next year. You have to hire an executive director. You'll be working with a facilitator. This organization will be a legal entity. They will be able to hire employees. They will be able to sign contracts. And so I'm just letting you know that the timeline's pretty aggressive.
So on that though, Tim, it says that the representative may be a supervisory union board member, the superintendent, or a designee.
That is correct.
And so I think for us to have an honest conversation, because there's not only the CISA formation, but there's the merger study
My next.
process,
Yep.
which I don't know how there will be the capacity to organize and form the CISA.
Yep.
If you are our superintendent, the representative on the CISA board, you are the largest supervisory union, so you play a different key role in that process.
Yeah.
And also we have to engage in a merger study group across all of the member districts.
Sure.
That just seems,
Yeah, it's two big initiatives in 1 year. So let me talk a little bit about the merger committee too. So the CISA, I just want to be clear with folks. That is consider that a Southwest Vermont discussion group. So from Rutland to Pownell, basically, will be participating in that group. There will be 7 such organizations across the state being facilitated by a facilitator hired by the state. I think my role is as superintendent of the largest district or the largest SU within that collection is simply to call the meeting and bring folks together. I would be happy to attend the first year's meeting and because it's also responsible for reporting out to the SU progress on that effort. And then I think that it could be absolutely something like, as you said, a board member can absolutely be considered part of that for a membership or a designee that you would pick from outside there. You mentioned the merger committee. That is the other large initiative that is being initiated. That too has pretty aggressive
that's the
timeline.
September timeline.
Yes. So the merger committee is not 7 groups. I believe it's closer to 20 groups. That is directed by the legislature. Our merger committee is effectively the SVSU, an outside facilitator coming in. You have to go through it's a voluntary merger discussion. There will be a report generated. But as you said, the facilitator would bring the first meeting, by September 1st, every school board within our SU would delegate or designate 1 current school board member to participate in that committee. So there would have to be a board member from each one of those boards being identified by September 1st. And by October 1st, the facilitator, again, this is someone who will be hired by the state to facilitate conversations. By October 1st, they need to have their first meeting of that group. And then the other deadline that's sitting in the legislation, and again, I will just share with you, the VSA is helpful. They are generating synopsis, but again, it has been signed into law and everybody's kind of trying to get a jump start on it. But the other piece is that there is a report due from the merger committee that would represent our area. That is due September 1st, 2027. So effectively a 1-year time frame, go through it. My hope is that as I get more information, I'd like to consolidate it for folks, all members of this board. You can read to your heart's content a 1 or 2 page summary of where they are right now, and I would imagine more information will be coming out.
I believe though that the CISA structure, the facilitator for the CISA is the same as the merger study group.
That is correct.
So it's not a regional, it's not the SVSU, it's all member districts for all entities within the CISA. I just want clarification on that, because I
Absolutely.
think it's a bigger conversation than just us within our existing.
Sure.
group.
So the CISA, and I'm sorry for the acronyms, it's lots of acronyms. The CISA, I'm organizing it as a Southwest Vermont conversation facilitated by an outside person.
But the facilitator for the merger study group is the same facilitator
You are
who's heading
correct.
up our CISA, which is
Yes,
the
this,
whole
you are
region.
correct. So whoever the state designates as being your facilitator for your CISA regional conversation will also be your resource for your merger
study.
study, which will be at your SVSU level.
Yeah, I think we need to get, I mean, there are a lot of questions, but I think we need to get clarification around that.
I think,
Because if we look at our own districts within the SU, merger committees should generally be organized so that the combined districts serve approximately 2,000 students or more,
yes,
where practical. So if we're only talking about our current SVSU, there are no merger opportunities within the SVSU member districts that are 2,000 students or more. The only way to create an entity that is 2,000 students or more as a merged district is to look at a larger
sure,
population.
sure. I don't think, as I read it, it's not,
It'll all become more clear as we go along, but it's,
yes.
it's,
So, and it, like, the report is really the thing that you need to generate, and at the end of it, it says in the initial reading that there's, the committee will ultimately recommend either you form a new union school district out of this, or you can say, we're not gonna do this, we're not gonna recommend this. So the exercise is still in front of you, you have to go through the study, and then you have to make a determination at the end of it.
there are documents that are being shared out by the Rural Schools Community Alliance. And Tim, if we can create a folder
Yep,
where they can be put so that everybody on the board can have access, because they've got great summaries. That I think would be helpful.
yep.
Okay.
And I'm reading off of a summary for CISA from VSA. And I'm
Okay.
happy to provide that for the board.
Okay.
There's also a timeline, a visual timeline. I found it hard to follow because it has everything in there. It has your local committee group, your regional report, what the state agency of education is responsible for. So it wasn't as easy for me to follow that in my brain as far as a timeline, but I'm happy to share that with folks. Absolutely.
And I would just ask before you raise your hand or are voluntold to do anything.
It may be as simple as inviting the region to a centrally located meeting in Bennington, because I certainly have gone to plenty of centrally located meetings north of here, so I would be happy to host folks to come here. So
Yeah.
I will get this is almost every other day kind of thing from the BSA at this point, just trying to get information out to folks. But my biggest takeaway for this board is that there are two big initiatives. As soon as the governor signs them, the clock starts, and they have very aggressive timelines to them. So I just want to make sure folks are aware of that as we go from there.
And for all the districts that are represented on this SU board, there is a large body of work to be done with our existing school boards that can't wait.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, we've been individually and as a group, we've been talking about strategic planning.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, and I know at least one other superintendent in this region who was gearing up for strategic planning. We both saw each other and we're like, well, how do you link these initiatives together while you're doing planning that impacts your local district? So
Yeah.
those are all things to consider. I wanted to make a couple of things available to folks. Consider this a resource as you go forward. For the retreat, the SVSU retreat is scheduled for Wednesday, June 24th. It starts at 12 o'clock. It'll be hosted here. We're providing lunch and snacks. My purpose of this is to give folks kind of a common set of numbers, current numbers that reflect the SVSU. It's a wide range of things. It can be operations, it can be budget, it can be demographics. academic, standing, enrollment. Just thought it'd be helpful for folks to have a resource that they can pull out and they can be looking at the same numbers as everybody else is, as we have those discussions. The second thing I wanted to hand out for folks is a piece of information to consider as we go forward, as I just think so. As we complete this school year, I wanted to share with you a piece of data. We tracked the number of board meetings, warned board meetings over the last year. So what you're looking at when you get this piece of paper is the top is the 25-26 calendar, months listed on the left, boards written across the top. It does not reflect all the negotiations meetings, by the way. I just put in the ones that I was able to attend. And 74 meetings, 74 board meetings. With the additional expectations coming down the pipeline, I had some conversations last week when I was at the superintendent's conference, talking to folks who are kind of in a similar situation as I am, a supervisory union, multiple boards. I have put down the bottom a proposed schedule for 26, 27. All it is saving dates at this point, but my purpose was to give some topics which are based on my reflection from this past year of topics that we covered. And then spacing out meetings to bring the number down to about half, about 33 of them, as a way of trying to, I guess, optimize our work as we get together. Like I said, I'm anticipating, there's a couple of other things, or one other note I would say in here is that Nick and I have been meeting with representatives from the teachers union for the year on a monthly basis. It feels like, Nick, is that correct? A safety committee, that is a product of negotiations from 3 years ago. And it wasn't until April that I raised my hand and I said, hey, like, how long have you guys been meeting? And they're like, 3 years. And I said, what's the outcome of this? And they pulled out the contract and they're like, oh, we're supposed to establish building-based safety committees to meet with the principal. We shouldn't necessarily be meeting with a superintendent. Okay, we can figure that out. But this is an initiative that got put in place. I don't think folks, if we get busy, we don't revisit it. But the most recent negotiations created another work study group. So this one is an item that, they couldn't find agreement on around earn time. So we're creating a work group that we'll do, but it's time that we'll have to carve out to the calendar, meet with folks, make some progress on.
Point of clarification, I don't know if it was it wasn't an agreed upon, it was more like there was more like they want to look, like jointly look together whether there's a benefit to.
Sure.
So I don't think it wasn't out of the safety committee was created to give access, I think, to the administration, not necessarily superintendent.
I'm just making folks aware of the fact that these are meetings that we will be attending and participating in, so. But I was a little, I mean, I knew I've been going to meetings, but I was a little surprised by the number. And I just share that with folks because I know some of you have been going to a lot of meetings with me because you sit more than one board. So, and I want to say this very clearly. I appreciate all the board members who make the time. It's a lot of commitment and a lot of time spent here. Yeah.
Have
Again,
you-
more work to come.
Have you reviewed this on budget specifically with Renee? Does this work for, like, if the SVSU is meeting in October and then in January, how does that work for SVSU budget? That needs to be built and approved before. So I just would want to,
Yeah.
I understand the intent. and
Yeah,
just wanna
my
make sure that
intention
it's
is not to
workable.
ask for a decision or an
Yeah,
action.
no.
I think this would be helpful for us as we go into retreat.
Yep.
Some of this is based on my observations in the first year. Actually, one of them is Sandy, you and I talked about this. We did all the budget work in January and then February. I wrote down, I'm like, I gotta get to every select board in February, and there's gotta be, like, we did all the hard work for budget, and then you gotta get out there and make time to, so I wrote myself a note. Again, it's a proposal, but an observation.
This board though will need to meet in February or
Sure.
have to have your evaluation done in January, along with the budgets, and
Yeah.
that could be a struggle. Maybe
That-
not.
No, that kind of feedback's good. Like I said, this is more reflective. I haven't talked to Renee. To get it, the middle of your school year is, you guys are really busy, your budget meetings, everybody's working hard on it. And then what happens is we got to come back to a special meeting because we needed a number updated. The other thing we observed this year, we had parents appealing decisions, so that was a meeting that could hold us in. So these are all things that kind of populate a calendar without folks, I want everybody to kind of be aware of the scale. So that's a good piece of feedback too. Hey, Tim, you're 1 month over, you should be, yeah, it's a good idea. But that's the kind of feedback I would appreciate as you look at the calendar and say, this works for me, or that's not my experience, or I could support that.
Well, and I, to Glenn's point about materials being provided in advance, I think anything that we can do that has an impact on efficiency and effectiveness. I mean, nobody needs to be meeting for the sake of meeting. And if they are thoughtfully planned.
Yep.
So that we can hit those key dates.
Oh, I think,
I think we had talked with you, even in the evaluation process, about whatever you do, it has to be sustainable. And 74 meetings plus a CISA plus a merger study.
It's just not enough.
Should have done this a couple years ago.
but I will say, my observation as a first year superintendent, we may not have a work plan, penciled on the wall, but the boards definitely have a rhythm to them. Like, we get together and we want an update on where's the building to start the year. We want to see student achievement. We dedicate a couple months to budget. You come out of that, you reorganize. Like, there's a rhythm to it, and you could figure out, to your request, well, all of you requested, it's like, hey, if we know that January is 2 months away and this is where we are, then we can give you information so that meeting can be even more effective, because you're not reading it in the moment, you're reading it ahead of time. Yep.
The other piece of this, in June for retreat, I believe it's mandated by law that all boards have to have a retreat, so we need to add those. I know you have a 0, but
I knew there was gonna be a retreat in there.
thank you.
I will say, though, I would ask the board to consider, there are several superintendents that I've talked to who, in an attempt to be more humane with the number of meetings for their members, bring groups together, like, all right, so October is budget overview. We all agreed to come together. We hear the same presentation. We may break out and, but they said, like, people plan to make that a 3-hour meeting. You come with a snack because you know what we're gonna be working on. And then, so that's an interesting idea too.
That was gonna be one of my asks, actually, especially as the number of board members seem to overlap greatly across, is that where, if appropriate, like where we could perhaps like layer a presentation and then have that style
Breakouts.
meeting would be great.
And maybe a student achievement would be one of those.
Yeah, I was looking at that one as part of it.
That's why I don't think we can break out, Tim, and separate, because we'll be, well, Glenn and I and Stephanie.
But I mean, if the presentation's essentially the same,
Right.
like I feel like the presentations get like either pared down for the specific board, but then overall for this board, and given the amount of overlap between the boards, having something that goes slightly longer and allows people to address it in that meeting, in the carousel style, I think I would find very beneficial.
I also feel like we could break away and task you with one and I would take the other, and then we could report to each other.
In a carousel, though, that they would go and just vote through, the different items on the different boards as part of it, because we would just all agree to be in that safe space together.
But typically there's a discussion with the carousel, and what I was sharing is that it's difficult to be in two carousels. So the overall, like the student achievement would is a presentation, and that's certainly one that we could look at as a group. If you did have to separate out, that could be challenging.
I guess the way I've seen the character, Jeff, correct me,
Well, I think-
I've seen it run differently also.
I just happen to get board members on multiple boards.
Right,
So they
yes.
can be in, and I guess.
I haven't seen it with a breakout. We've done.
It's the difference of a breakout versus a carousel.
Right,
Like a
yes.
breakout's a completely different.
Yeah, because we've done breakouts before.
But we've done
and then
carousels.
We've done carousel.
Where, and that would be where all the board members are present and
Yeah.
people who are, like, each board, we, like, through the course of the meeting, you run through all the boards, right? So, and like, for instance, if we started with SVSU first and Ray could leave, if we didn't need to be part of the other pieces or something, but like, if it was SVSU, MAU and SVU, SD, like, we would run through those meetings and everyone would be present for it, and the people who were voting would be voting for it, right? So the discussion would occur in public throughout the. Sure.
My purpose, again, not asking for specific action. I'm hoping that this is helpful for folks. It gives you trends, gives you some basic information that you can talk about. And I know some folks prefer it in paper. We'll have an electronic too, if that's what you look for. And then the calendar thing. My hope is that folks have a chance to look at this, write some notes, and you carry it into the retreat. Say, hey, I've been thinking about it. This is something I can support. Hey, have you considered this, Tim, for next year? We have a lot of work to do, and I'm excited about that. But I think we can come out with a good plan and in the retreat and have a plan going forward. That'd be helpful. I have taken up entirely too much time. It's 4 to 8.
Well, just rolling quickly into the chair's report, Tim and I met with Tracy, who will be facilitating the retreat. She will be sending out a self-assessment sort of on the goals that we had agreed on for last year, sort of how individually, how do you see that we did, what worked, what didn't work? So that she can summarize all of that before we get together. So be on the lookout for that coming from Tracy. The thought is that we will use probably the first part of the meeting to talk more about governance and operations, whether that's goal setting or not policy and procedure, but operational practices, kind of how things like the calendar and things like, how do we get to a place where we have those efficiencies, some agreement on what those efficiencies could be or need to be. And then the second part of the meeting, probably a large portion of the meeting, will be to talk about the implications of the legislative changes so that we can, as a group, talk about what are the priorities for our individual boards, what are the priorities for the communities, getting us ready to start having some of those conversations with the merger study groups.
Or the retreat will be here.
The retreat will be here. Yep. Okay. Next, we have the FYI, there's the budget status report that was attached. That was in the packet. I believe the treasurer's report was there. I'm not sure when I looked. They have it pulled up.
There is a treasurer's April 26th treasurer report.
Okay. Those are just FYI, those documents are available. And then we have 2 executive sessions. First, motion for 1 VSA section 313(1) for contracts. That would be inviting in our superintendent and director of HR. A motion for that executive session.
Make the motion, accepting ordered.
Yeah, I think we'll second it.
Can we make 2 motions to go into 1 executive session? Nick is shaking his head, yes.
As long as you identify both causes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the first. All those in favor? Aye.
Unanimous?
And then we have a second executive session, motion requested for 1 VSA 313(3), the appointment or employment of employment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
Jeff will make the motion.
Glenn will second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Also inviting in our same special guests.
Yeah, this is true.
Yesterday.
And I restarted
Recording
the
in
recording and
progress.
Chat TV's back, so you're. Take it in.
So in terms of process, it's 8:33. A motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Jeff will second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So we are out. We have two items coming out of the executive session. First is Scott.
So, under the non-union contracts, portion of executive session, I'd like to make a motion that for 3.75% for admin and 5% from non-administrative, pay contracts for the, fiscal year 26-27.
Second, Stephanie Mulligan will second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Administrators or directors?
It's titled, it's grouped as administrative and non-administrative.
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That is a unanimous vote. And then our second item. Under appointment or evaluation of a public officer or employee.
A request of this board to name Beth Lorch as Assistant Superintendent for the SVSU.
So moved. I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Thanks to Beth for her great work in her first year. All those in favor? Aye. They're unanimous. There is no other business on the agenda, so we would be looking for a motion to adjourn at 8:35.
I'll make that motion.
One more thing, Scott.
I will second the motion. Stephanie Mulligan.